Holy Week to be spent indoors. Citizens urged not to discriminate. And social media abusers to be prosecuted.
This is National EMTV News with Neville Choi.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Thursday's news. The Catholic Church and the Christian faithful throughout the world celebrate the Holy Week for the first time indoors. Tomorrow, Good Friday, is profoundly commemorated with the 14 Stations Way of the Cross. Archbishop of Port Moresby, Cardinal Sir John Ribath, says the faithful will now, for the first time, observe this solemn ceremony in their homes.
The Good Friday Way of the Cross in Port Moresby in yesteryears. A Christian gathering that's brought in thousands of believers from the Archdiocese and a wider Christian faith. Such crowds now unable to congregate because of the global pandemic COVID-19. Archbishop of Port Moresby, Cardinal Sir John Ribath, encourages people to celebrate at home.
Now at this time, while we are not together celebrating as families, as friends, and maybe alone. At this time, please know that God is with us. Jesus is with us. So family, I'd like to encourage you all to be able to kind of prepare a place where you can, in your house. And I believe you have a place in your house, a table, a Bible, and a picture of our Lord there. And even Our Lady, statue of Our Lady, and our Lord Jesus. If you have them all there, and that is a shrine in the home.
He also encouraged Christians to observe good hygiene practices during this time.
Now you meet too long this time, you may walk along, stop, look out, walk ready. And you may try best play you may also I suppose sila virus ikan, but you may try stop him spread belong him. By no can go along all brothers who sablo you meet.
Easter celebrations will also be indoors, remembering Christ's resurrection individually and in small family units. Bradley Valenaki, National EMTV News.
Controller of the COVID-19 state of emergency, David Manning, has issued an order to stop all public transport during this Easter weekend. This order follows a sequence of emergency orders aimed at tightening levels of safety and security measures around the country. Manning says this will commence today until 6 a.m. on Tuesday, 14th of April. The controller says those breaching this order will be arrested and charged under the SOE laws.
As to the Easter long weekend, again, I've directed that all public transport nationwide are to cease operations as of 12 midnight tonight, Thursday the 9th of April, and to resume for business at 6 a.m. on Tuesday the 14th of April. Now, the reason for the temporary shutdown is to promote the COVID-19 health safety messages during the Easter period, and quite plainly and basically to stop the spread. As we are rapidly approaching one of the most significant events of the Christian calendar, it is equally important to encourage our people to stay at home. It is proven that social distancing is key to stopping the spread, and we cannot risk big gatherings at this time. It potentially will unravel the good work and progress we have achieved thus far. Churches and places of worship have been asked to minimize numbers to no more than 50 per service, depending on the size of the place of worship. However, I am pleased to note that various churches have taken the initiative by delivering their sermons and providing that spiritual nourishment and guidance over the various radio stations.
The effects of COVID-19 are spreading fast across continents, destroying powerful economies and causing panic amongst communities that are less informed of what COVID-19 really is. In Papua New Guinea, the government has issued warnings against stigma and discriminatory remarks posted by social media users against COVID-19 persons of interest. Prime Minister James Marape says those found posting discriminatory remarks will be dealt with under the emergency laws already in place.
And in this instance, as I come,
Papua New Guinea has reported its second COVID-19 case in the country since the outbreak of the coronavirus in December last year. But many Papua New Guineans throughout the country are still asking questions about what COVID-19 is and why the government is taking strict measures to prevent what many fear would be a community transmission. This is partly because proper awareness is not reaching people at the community level, or many people are just ignorant. However, since the first local transmission case was reported in East New Britain, there has been numerous Facebook posts against one ethnic group. This concern has been raised with law enforcement authorities, and Prime Minister James Marape says those found to be posting defamatory remarks or causing panic will be dealt with by the emergency laws.
if anyone is found to have broken law, they will be dealt with in the serious case. This lady is not a threat to anyone right now. By some reason, she contacted this virus. We are doing everything possible to take stock of where she has been and her contacts to ensure that the spread is not happening. She's not a threat to anyone. As we speak today, I was informed that she is healthy, standing up, talking, cooperating. And so into the future, she comes from a pool of persons of interest that we've contacted. There'll be tests done. And when tests are done or checks are being done, doesn't mean this person or this person is already positive. These are part of our routine tests that we are doing going into the future. So coming back to your question on penalties, those who are speculating or propagating negative spins in social media or in media proper, then penalties and a higher penalty than the normal penalties will be dispensed under the controller's order going forward.
But the challenge on the level of social stigma associated with COVID-19 is not only experienced in PNG. In Fiji, one man was already arrested for allegedly posting comments against Fijian authorities issuing directions to stay at home during the lockdown.
Certainly and definitely those who are in social media, if you are commenting negative on those who are, like in this instance, the young lady who tested positive, you are already in breach of, and you'll be penalized. We've established a cyber team here, experts to sit down, and we'll be going through Facebook, going through internet to ensure that we operate within lawful conduct.
Thus, a guide provided by UNICEF and WHO says social stigma can negatively affect those with the virus, including those caring for them and their families. Thaklagunga, National EMTV News.
While social media is being flooded with information, those abusing the law and orders of the state of emergency will be arrested. Minister for Information and Communication Technology, Timothy Masiu, says the National Information and Communication Authority, or NICTA, will identify and prosecute abusers of social media platforms. Masiu says this is not to restrict freedom of speech, but to ensure users are responsible when expressing their views during this COVID-19 threat.
In a statement released by the Communication Minister, there is substantial increase in the abuse of social media during the period of the state of emergency. While platforms of social media are used to disseminate and provide awareness and relevant information for the mass population, users are also spreading incorrect information and stigma. Minister Masiu says the National Information and Communication Authority, or NICTA, has been instructed to identify and prosecute those users. This also follows orders announced by the SOE controller David Manning. According to the Communications Minister, NICTA has met with mobile phone operators and will recommend a way forward to clamp down on those abusing the use of social media. Masiu also emphasized that while this is necessary, this effort is not to restrict freedom of speech but to encourage responsibility when expressing one's view. 2 officers of a government telecommunication company are under investigation and will be arrested under SOE laws. Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Founding Father Grand Chief Sir Michael Somare turns 84 today. Amidst the global pandemic of COVID-19, Sir Michael urged all Papua New Guineans to give attention to parents and grandparents who are vulnerable during this time. While quietly celebrating his birthday at home in Port Moresby, Sir Michael urged all to practice social distancing and good hygiene. Sir Michael also called on the people of East New Britain to unite and support the first local COVID-19 case to full recovery. The country's first Prime Minister urged all Papua New Guineans to observe the state of emergency as the COVID-19 threat is serious. Assistant Police Commissioner NCD Central Anthony Wagambi has called on the public to report any actions of police misconduct. He said, though the police have been working hard during this lockdown period, there are still reports of misconduct. The Assistant Commissioner further adding that there are discussions to put in place a toll-free number for the Internal Investigation Unit to take these reports. He also challenged people to adhere to simple instructions and stay out of trouble during this time of national emergency.
The alert came about and the state of emergency started to do with the COVID-19 entering our shores. They have been very, very committed. I've seen them personally, and they've committed at times long hours to enforce these restrictions. Only a few will fall out of line, which is always the case. You can't have everybody 100%. There'll always be one or two. So that little percentage of people, police will fall out of line. If you become a victim of any extortion or whatever police misconduct, we encourage you to report it to police. And we're working on getting a toll-free number and a hotline to be used by our internal affairs people so that people can have direct contact with them when or if there's a complaint. So we are addressing that. So it's very important that, and then also the Buai ban, the Bidlat ban is a very big issue here. I also appeal to our people that we must adhere to instructions. Let's not wait until it's too late.
In supporting the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic in the nation's capital, the NCDC is investing in better waste management to ensure a clean and healthy city. Today, up to 10 new fleets of trash compactors and trucks were commissioned by NCD Governor Powers Parkop to start collecting trash in the city. The governor says these new trucks will ensure domestic trash is collected on time to help keep the city clean.
These new trash compactors and trucks were purchased by NCD's domestic waste contractor PNG Waste Co. with support from Money Plus. They were purchased at a cost of over 3 million kina. According to PNG Waste Co. Managing Director Dixon Samai, it is their social responsibility to ensure the city is clean to help in the fight against COVID-19.
Hereby commission. Thank you. So with this capacity now, we assure the city residents that we can cover up to about 95% of the waste every day. So I want to thank especially my workers here who wake up early in the morning, just finish till 5 o'clock afternoon, and also sleep kirap turning on them rubbish.
PNG Waste Co. is a local SME contracted by NCD to collect trash in the city, and they have been working in partnership with NCD for over 12 years. But over the years, there have been complaints of trash not being collected on time. NCD Governor Powers Parkop said, with this new fleet of trash trucks, rubbish in the city will be collected on time to ensure the city is clean.
In the midst of COVID-19, it is important that we show to our people, and our people need to be assured that these essential services will continue. Not only they'll continue, but will deliver to our standard, because we want your city to transform and become a better city.
According to the governor, domestic trash alone makes up a total of 100 tons of rubbish collected per day. He said there are plans in place to ensure these wastes are recycled and reused. However, there is a need for more partnership to ensure other wastes such as medical waste and industrial waste are managed.
100 tons of waste every day, there's a lot of waste. It's not easy to collect, but the Commission is always here day in, day out, doing our part, and now I'm confident that it will be even more efficient. So this we are doing for you, all our residents.
The governor further stressed on the importance of cleanliness during this time of national emergency. He said as NCDC are doing their best to keep the city clean, city residents must also do their part.
But I expect you people, our people, to get the basic right too. Speed buaya maski. You block complain lo me lo when I'm stopping boy here, because you don't do your part. You like Simani Tasol, Kai Tasol, Red Mouse Tasol, Hamamas Tasol. Now you know like working part, you know, helping me, helping city manager, helping board block commission to keep our city good, clean, healthy. So we are doing our part. I want our people to do our part too.
Rayon Lakingu National, MTV News.
Education Secretary Dr. Uke Kombra has announced a total of 50 million kina, which will be paid to schools this week for education emergency and WASH programs. This payment is batch 1 of payment 1 and will benefit schools in all sectors of education within the national education system. Secretary Kombra has advised school boards and administrations to use the government tuition fee subsidy to support education in emergency and WASH programs. These include vocational and inclusive education centers in order to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. Dr. Kombra has called on school boards and administrators to ensure school facilities, teachers and their families are secured during the extended period of suspension of classes due to COVID-19. And you're watching National EMTV News. We'll be back with more of today's other stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Morobe's COVID-19 Response Committee has allowed for the Lay market to reopen temporarily, but has warned that it will be closed based on advice from the Provincial Health Authority. The closure was lifted following the end of the 14-day lockdown on Tuesday.
One of the biggest markets in the country reopened today after 2 weeks. The 14-day closure forced the Lay City Authority and Morobe's COVID-19 response team to trial alternatives, including the creation of smaller markets in neighborhoods.
There is some amount of panic still. You can see as soon as you're walking into the market.
There was an abundant supply of greens, with everyone keen to sell off the oversupply of food from their gardens. The market looked less crowded this morning. Many of the sellers were adhering to the awareness. There was some social distancing. At the gate, the city authority workers armed with soap made sure people washed their hands before going into the market. But it will take a lot more awareness before it all sinks in, and people do it because it has to be done for their own safety.
As soon as you walk into the gate, there is the restrictions of washing your hands with a hand sanitizer.
Last night, the Provincial COVID-19 Committee said the restrictions to trading hours and the large crowds will continue, and travel by boat from the New Guinea Islands is banned.
All of a sudden, the committee might shut down our borders, or we can pass him border late travel or something. So, you man round nothing na nogat walk na, and you think lo go lo sampla, please do so now, because nungut me shut him down. City of Lay, and you will be caught inside the city. Time you know that time.
With the first locally transmitted case of COVID-19, the response team says the situation is fluid and may escalate in the coming months when more testing is done. Scott Whitey, National EMTV News, Lay.
Bulolo MP and National Planning Minister Sam Basil says district MPs must work on COVID-19 setups in their districts. He said the national government is looking at the international borders amidst COVID-19 alerts, and the district MPs should work on systems for their own electorates. Similar views have been expressed by Lay MP and Lands Minister John Rosso.
Bulala MP Sam Basil has confirmed receiving the 2 million Kina District Services Improvement Program, or DSIP funds, released by the national government last week. According to Basil, these funds have been put towards COVID-19 operations in the district.
So what we are doing is that from the district level, we are getting ourselves prepared to take on any challenges that comes up, and not forgetting that we are open and we are willing to incorporate with the provincial team and to incorporate with the national team.
This week, Basil visited the Warabung checkpoint along the Bulolo Highway. It was set up to monitor the movement of vehicles and passengers in and out of the district during the lockdown period, and is also being used to raise awareness on the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are maintaining the control to make sure that every passengers on the PMVs sit almost 1 meter apart, and any 30-seater PMVs carry half the capacity.
For the Ley district, MP John Rosso also confirmed receiving DSIP funds. Whilst visiting the isolation facility that is being set up by the NKW Group at 11 Mile outside of Ley, Rosso said the funds will be used to assist with COVID-19 operations. In addition, the Morobe PEC and the Tewai CSCMP have also put forward funds for the COVID-19 efforts in the province.
Onapla member lo Morobe now I'm all talk to one mipla too, so mipla gra mas bung one time na only man lo tram straight him this la time now you know time blue milo sana up grand strain talk argue no money once and now and time blue put walk one time.
Both Basil and Rosso expressed that the government has to deal with national COVID-19 plans, including protecting the international borders, and district MPs should use the DSIP funds to concentrate on COVID-19 operations in their districts.
Olarapla province, you may go on, you may setting district, provincial administration, police, you may must set him all out, now you may ready to solve. One time, one outbreak, you come up, district, mipla can walk boom one time, provincial team, now walk boom one time, national government.
So 2 million kina DSIP and mipla olim now lo halbim lo ausik na broken budget na halbim ausik na straight him all this something blow. When I'm COVID-19 yeah. You know blow mipla lo walk more napla walk now this lam lo time lo halbim lo this lo emergency something.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Ley.
Angao Hospital staff have been informed that an independent investigation team would be sent today to investigate allegations against the hospital's management. The arrangement was a directive by Health Minister Jelta Wong after being informed on staff grievances by Ley MP John Rosso and Morobe Governor Ginson Saunu. While the Angao Hospital staff was scaled down following the SOE orders, other health workers are still attending to patients at the wards and the accident and emergency unit. The union health workers and the hospital staff said they are continuing with their daily duties and shifts in providing patient care to the citizens of Morobe. However, they are still maintaining their stance to have responsible authorities dissolve the board members and remove the CEO. The Independent Consumer and Competition Commission recently announced the drop in fuel prices in the country. Fuel distributor Puma Energy said there is still enough fuel for the whole year despite the pandemic. Puma Energy General Manager Hulala Tokome says with fuel prices changing monthly, the price of petrol has dropped quite significantly.
The petrol price has actually dropped down to just above 3 kina for petrol and below 3 kina for diesel.
And now we'll take a look at the NASFAN market report. The kina opened unchanged at $0.2910 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying 0.4521 Australian dollars, 0.2835 US dollars, 0.4693 New Zealand dollars, and 30.23 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold was trading lower. Coffee and cocoa closed lower, copper closed higher, palm oil closed lower, crude oil is trading higher, and copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed higher, the ASX was trading higher, and the All Ordinaries was trading higher. And we'll take a short break now, but when we return, we'll bring you news making headlines overseas. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Prime Minister James Marape met the new Australian High Commissioner to PNG, Jonathan Phillip, today. Welcoming Mr. Phillip, Mr. PM Marape assured him of the government's support during his term. The new Australian High Commissioner to Papua New Guinea, Jonathan Phillip, arrived in Port Moresby on March 21st to commence his appointment. The meet and greet is the first as Prime Minister Marape expressed his apology due to the 14-day lockdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Prime Minister Marape says the PNG government will work closely with Australia during this global crisis. Phillip takes over from outgoing High Commissioner Bruce Davis. Turning overseas now, New Zealand's rushing more relief to cyclone-ravaged Vanuatu as reports emerged of at least 2 deaths and pictures revealing devastation. Cyclone Harold carving through Fiji before ripping past Tonga early today.
After a night of battering, the dawn brought no relief. Low-lying areas of Tonga underwater, these coastal homes surrounded by thigh-deep seas. Inside, family treasures are heaped on beds to keep them dry. Neighbours checking on each other, not quite believing the extensive flooding where their children play. Kiwi Dan Rogers didn't have much sleep.
Pretty loud, it's pretty heavy. We're just starting to flood.
In the capital, Nuku'alofa, most roads still awash with floodwater.
Look at what's happening to Tonga.
Those very warm seas allowed it to bubble up, and with that, it stayed strong and actually went to a Category 5, this top level, briefly as it moved past Tonga.
Before Tonga heralded done its worst in some of the Fijian islands, like here in Tandavu. It wiped out homes, schools and communities around Fiji.
Between Tropical Cyclone Harold and the global COVID-19 pandemic, our economy and our people have been dealt two body blows to start the year. While we may be on the ropes, now is when the measures of our resilience and diligence matter most.
Assessments are being made around the country, but it's not looking good. The Prime Minister warning the public to stay indoors and not spread COVID-19.
This storm must not compromise our coronavirus containment efforts, lest we risk damage far more painful than the aftermath of any cyclone.
Vanuatu too picking up the pieces. These the latest pictures from its second biggest city, Luganville.
So these people don't get the press.
In just 2 days, Cyclone Harold has heaped destruction on 3 island nations as they fight to keep COVID-19 at bay.
Foreign governments in New Zealand have now repatriated nearly 5,500 of their citizens living in the country on hastily arranged chartered flights. Tourists from Germany, the Netherlands, Korea, France and Switzerland are among the lucky ones heading home.
At first glance through the moonlight, it looks like any other early morning at Christchurch Airport. Outside, planes are landing, flight preparations underway, while inside there's a rush to get on board. But this is no ordinary commute. It's a rescue.
We had to stay here and wait for the government.
It would be really hard to get back if they wouldn't do it.
I'm a bit sad because I don't want to leave this all behind now.
With commercial flights grounded, Lufthansa, the national carrier of Germany, is repatriating its citizens en masse.
If those young people would be my son, my daughter, I had to bring them home.
The pilots and flight attendants all volunteering their time.
For me, it was not a question to be a volunteer, and I asked my boss, so give me a flight, and I will do that.
In the past 2 weeks, there's been a mass exodus, with nearly 20,000 people leaving on commercial flights. A further 5,500 have been repatriated to Europe and Korea on charter flights, while 12,500 foreigners are still stuck here, hoping to leave. Those lucky enough to get a seat had to brave the crowds this morning. The Dutch ambassador setting up a checkpoint for their charter flight.
Slept in the car overnight. Had to save on costs because no money left because there's no work anymore.
But then it was time to head down the air bridge.
Bye bye, Germany we come.
And to their seats for a long 24-hour journey to weather their uncertain futures from the comfort of home.
And you're tuned into Thursday's news. Trukai Sports is next. Here's Godwin with a preview from the sports desk.
Thanks, Neville. NRL to recommence on May 28, and back home, the High Performance Centre is set to open soon for athletes to train. Details after the break.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The Australian Rugby League Commission has announced the NRL season will recommence on May 28. A phone hookup with all members from each of the 16 clubs was held today. The league was shut down after round 2 of the season last month because of concerns relating to player welfare during the coronavirus pandemic.
Live on air today, the NRL's billion-dollar broadcast partner went nuclear.
Well, quite clearly, the buck stops with Todd Greenberg, the CEO of the game. Mismanagement of the code, profoundly wasting funds, money squandered by a bloated head office that completely ignore the needs of clubs, players and supporters.
The mudslinging a result of Channel 9 allegedly being left out of the NRL's plans to resume with a new truncated season, when the money 9 pays is for a full 29 weeks of action.
The view from Channel 9 right now is they are seething about this.
It matters because the game survives off its $1.8 billion TV rights deal with Nine and rival Foxtel. With the season on hold, neither network paid its quarterly installments last week, so how can a relaunch proceed without them? Nevertheless, the NRL's Innovation Committee has presented plans for a May 28 restart.
Today, what we landed on was a starting date, and we discussed possible structures, competition structures, but we haven't finalised what that looks like as yet.
The Warriors set to base themselves in Australia yet again.
And I think we're able to get out of the country. In fact, trying to find a flight might be our biggest challenge. It's more so where you go to and who lets you in, and that's, I think, major discussions are happening on the Australian side of the Tasman more so than this side of us leaving the country.
Despite only 2 rounds being played, this is already a season we'll never forget.
PNG High Performance Training Centre is expected to open its doors sometime this month to allow athletes to get back into training in preparation for their respective tournaments, both nationally and internationally. High Performance coach and trainer Jacqueline Travett says this was the latest news from the authorities.
The current situation that we're facing, because it's beyond our control, so it was a directive from our CEO that we stop work from the 16th of March. So it's since the 16th of March we haven't been to work because of the current situation. So there's a lot of athletes who want to train, but all we can do now is advise them to stay home and train at home, to at least when these things settle down a bit, then we can start off. But we're just waiting for a directive as to when we're going to start work at High Performance again. From what I heard this morning, there's probably we could be back on the 23rd of April. That's what I heard from our boss this morning.
Trukai Sports continues after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Most countries affected by the coronavirus pandemic are in lockdown, and self-isolation has turned sports stars and ordinary people into daredevils. This one from New Zealand's take on life inside the bubble.
Whether it's towed by the tractor, the horse, or even the boat, doesn't matter, One News watchers are keeping on moving. We know with the bad weather it's going to make sport tough work, but pitch up inside. If you're lucky, there could be some sun. Hey, and if you want to know, you're doing a lot better than some people. Take former world #1 tennis star Caroline Wozniacki, for example. Clearly, retirement's going well for her. But here in New Zealand, families are challenging themselves. Ty Kelly's practicing his surf life-saving skills in Papamoa, while Lily's nailing the water bottle flip challenge. Wellington's David Shepherd is keeping his climbing training up with a little bit of wood splitting on the side. And Adi Savi is faster than ever, laying down his 20-metre sprint time trial. Juggling extraordinaires, our next Winter Olympics champion, you name it, we'll crown you it. Grab what you can. Okay, even the baby. You might even surprise yourself.
Kiwi Supercar champion Scott Mclaughlin is celebrating a remarkable run in the new virtual world of motor racing.
4 days after winning the virtual IndyCar event in the US, Mclaughlin beat teammate Fabian Coulthard in the first simulated supercars race at Phillip Island near Melbourne. The real fireworks coming in the third race at the famous Monza Formula One track in Italy.
Mclaughlin almost loops the thing and rolls off the top of the curb, and I knew there'd be chaos in the first chicane.
2 turns later on the same opening lap, it was more like pinball.
So watch Bryce forward here. Watch him soar into the air. So Heimgartner got air time, and this is Bryce. Bang! Pirouette lands.
Be very
No damage, of course. Mclaughlin passing Cam Waters on lap 15, going on to win race 3. The second event will be held on the Silverstone track next week.
You're watching National MTV News, the weather forecast for the next 24 hours when we come back.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always. And to the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In Port Moresby, mostly fine with a top of 32 and a low of 24. Cloudy and showers expected in Daru with a top of 32 and a minimum of 24. Mostly fine in Kerama in the top side at 31 with a minimum of 24. Cloudy and showers also expected in Alatau. And it's mostly fine in Popondetta with a top temperature of 31 and a minimum of 24. To the Momase region, fine and cloudy periods expected in Leh, a top temperature there of 31 degrees Celsius and a bottom figure there of 24. Mostly fine in Wau and Madang. Madang tops out at 30 degrees with a minimum of 24. Fine and cloudy weather expected in Wewak with a maximum of 30, and cloudy periods and showers expected in Vanimo also with a maximum of 30 degrees. To the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine in Lorangau, fine and sunny weather expected in Kavieng with a hot of 31 degrees Celsius as a maximum. Mostly fine in Kokopo and Rabaul, fine and cloudy weather expected in Kimbe and Boka, expecting some cloudy periods with showers. Then finally to the Highlands region, Mount Hagen expecting fine and cloudy weather later. Afternoon showers expected in Goroka. Afternoon showers also expected in Kundiawa, both with a minimum of 14 degrees, so some cold weather coming there. In Mendi, it's mostly fine with a maximum of 23 degrees, and in Wabeg also mostly fine with a maximum also of 23 degrees. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border to Daru, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, Aroma Coast, and with waters of Finschhafen through Vitius and Dampier Straits to Siasi Islands to Long Island, seas 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Samurai Island and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, with waters of Long Island to Madang to Bogia to Wewak, to Aitape to northern PNG Indonesian border, with waters of East and West New Britain and New Ireland, with waters of Bougainville, seas 1 to 2 meters. Waters of East Cape to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. To ocean forecast for PNG areas, coral seas, seas slight to moderate with southeast to southwest winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon seas, seas moderate with southwest winds at 15 to 25 knots. Bismarck seas, seas moderate with northwest winds at 15 to 25 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas slight to moderate with northwest winds at 10 to 20 knots. The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus, with you always. And that's been the news, sports and weather for today, the 9th of April 2020. On behalf of the entire MTV News team right around the country, pleasant viewing. Good night.